Hello, thank you for tuning in for another podcast. I can't say how grateful I am. I can't say that enough how grateful I am for everyone who listens to the podcast, who contributes their energy to these shows, and just thank you. Today's show is titled "Is That So?" And this was inspired by a story that Eckhart Tolle told in one of his videos. And so he's telling about this Zen master, this guru, who spiritual leader who lived in a village long time ago. And he would give sage advice to everyone who lived in the village, and they came to really look up to him and really respect him for the gifts that he gave with helping them live a very peaceful life. Well, one day, a young girl, I think Eckhart Tolle said she was 14 years old, came to visit him. And he gave her, wisdom and advice. And shortly thereafter, she became pregnant. And so when the father asked her, like, how did this happen? Who's responsible? And she said it was, the Zen master, the spiritual leader. And so the father, upset, he marched over there and said, how could you do this? This is so dishonorable. And just called him a lot of disparaging names. And all the Zen master said to each one of those comments was, is that so? That's all he said, is that so? And so, and he said, here, take the baby, you're going to care for this baby. The Zen master replied, is that so? The father leaves, goes on, and for the next several years, the baby is raised in the care of the Zen master. During this time, his reputation is soiled. No one comes to see him anymore. He's ostracized from the village, and he just keeps living on his path, caring for the child. That's what's in front of him. Shortly thereafter, the young girl, her consciousness rises up, and she comes clean and tells the father that it wasn't the Zen master who was responsible for the birth of the baby, but it was really a young man the next village over. And so the father, comes back to the Zen master, apologizing, asking him to forgive him. And all the Zen master says is that so? And then he said, we'll take the baby back and care for the baby. The Zen master says, is that so? Hands him the baby and carries on. And what that taught me is that when people say things about you or they create this narrative about you, the response is that so? The ego loves the melodrama of, I got to defend myself. You think this way about me, whether it's a spouse or a loved one or your children who say something, whether it's true or not, but it's negative. I mean, obviously, if it's true, you want to own it and apologize, but if it's not true and it's negative, whatever that is, you have a choice. You don't have to respond to it. I had a situation that happened several years ago, a lot of years ago, and it really affected my little business. It affected my reputation. The only thing that has a reputation is your ego, but it affected that. But at that time, I wasn't doing the practice. I was trying to live a very positive life and make a difference. But I was missing the practice and this ability to have inner peace. And I remember the first 72 hours of this happening where people were making comments or forming their judgments about me. I remember that time for the first 72 hours being defensive, and I've got to convince people, of seeing this differently. I remember all of that and all of that energy, and it was just causing this tremendous amount of suffering because I felt like I had to defend myself. And then in an instant, I don't know what happened, but I became aware that I had another choice. I don't have to defend anything. I can just let it be. There are no external enemies. If people say things, true, not true, they're not an enemy. Life is not an enemy. I don't have to live in that space. I can choose a completely different path and just let things flow through me. Like, that's an option. And I could become super focused and conscious of what I am in control of. And in this moment, I'm in control of doing the things that allow me or help me experience inner peace, period. That's it. That's completely it. And we have an awesome opportunity right now with what's going on with the pandemic and a lot of other things that are happening in the country and in the world to use those as opportunities to practice letting go. Someone wants, I have friends who they are really great friends. A lot of their day is spent being in this very defensive posture, defending their positions, their ideas, these concepts, whether it's around masking, vaccines, public policy. You don't have to do any of that. I mean, certainly you can have an opinion about it, but you don't have to be ready to go to blows over ideas and concepts and cause that kind of suffering. You can literally, someone says something that you disagree with, mentally you just say, is that so? You don't have to defend or to explain. And that's been a really powerful thing for me to do, that tool, having that kind of communication technology. And more than that, to be able to have that kind of understanding that I don't have to comment on everything. I don't have to defend everything. When I do, what actually happens is I start to erect barriers and wall myself off, and I become closed. Your children make a statement about your parenting. If it's not true, you let it flow through you. You don't take it on. At work, you are faced with like growth. I mean, at work and at where I work now, there's a lot of growth going on. I mean, and people feel understaffed, under-resourced. And even in that situation, there's a choice. I'm going to make the best I have. I'm going to do the best I can with what I have. And when I come into this space, what I'm going to contribute is going to be positive energy. I'm not going to complain about the situation. Now, if I can contribute a constructive voice of not just identifying the problem, but coming up with a solution that is a win-win for everybody, I can offer that. And if the leadership says no or no, not right now, I accept that. But I won't go back and complain about it because I'm not contributing great energy. And I'm certainly not saying, is that so? Instead, I'm meeting it with hostility and I'm meeting it with complaining. And in that respect, what I used to do was be a troublemaker to the space. And so there is always a choice. The key is being aware that there is a choice. That is the key. And the practice, which I talk about a lot, is what allows you to take space so you become aware that there is a choice. And so with everything that's going on, employment uncertainty, what's going on in the world, it's really become this amazing opening and opportunity to work on these things, of continuing to see that there are other possibilities in this moment. And so I invite you, the next time that something comes up and your mind says that you need to do this, just quietly, calmly, just say to your narrative, is that so? That's one way of doing it that is going to more than likely bring more suffering. Or there's another way to do it, which invites peace. And in the beginning, it's much easier to do the former because that's what we're used to. I invite you to really try something different and go the peaceful path where you say nothing. Now, the ego is not going to like that one bit, but the ego, how's that worked out for you? Not well. You're suffering, you're upset, you come to work and you see more of what's missing and what's wrong than what's good. Same thing at home. You come in, you trip over a backpack, immediately you start going with how the house is a mess and people don't do their part around the home. That's one way to greet your loved ones when you come home. Consider there's another way. The backpack's in the way, calmly ask, your child to pick the backpack up and put it away. Don't make it a big deal. And then you can get on with loving and connecting and taking space and leaving everything from the workday. That's in the past. Be here, right now. Don't invite the news into your home, social media into your home. You don't need that. Instead, create a peaceful space for you to recharge, rejuvenate, and then come back the next day better than you were the day before. So that's what I invite you. The next time your ego shows up, something comes up, challenges you, you want to be upset with the driver who's not driving the way you think they should be, just say, is that so? It doesn't have to be that way. So thank you for listening. Have a really great day.